You're on Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman as we end the show today in Jackson, Mississippi, where just 1 week from today, social justice activist and attorney Chokwe Lumumba will be sworn in as Jackson's next mayor. Earlier this month, Lumumba won the general election in a landslide after handily winning a primary election in May. This is Chokwe Lumumba celebrating his general election victory with supporters.
Free the land!
Chokwe Lumumba is the son of the late Jackson Mayor Chokwe Lumumba, a longtime black nationalist organizer and attorney dubbed America's most revolutionary mayor before his death in 2014. The 34-year-old Chokwe Lumumba supports economic democracy's proposed a civic incubator fund to support cooperative member-owned businesses in Jackson. Shortly after his election, Lumumba was a featured speaker just a few weeks ago at the People's Summit in Chicago.
I bring greetings from Jackson, Mississippi, where I have recently been named mayor-elect of Jackson, Mississippi. In this process, we defeated a field of 16 people. We were able to secure the general election with 94% of the vote. And more important than that, we did so on a people's platform. On a people's platform where from the moment we announced we did so saying that we were running on an agenda of social justice, of economic democracy, and working with people, making certain that people had a voice. And that's our story, and we're sticking to it. All right. As we look at the condition of our country, as we consider the fact that we're in Trump times, we have all kinds of questions of what that means. And when I've been confronted with the question of how do you feel in Jackson, Mississippi after the Trump election, what I had to share with people is after the Wednesday after the election, I woke up in Jackson, Mississippi. And what that means is, no matter whether our country has experienced great booms or busts, in Mississippi, we've always been at the bottom. And so what that means is that we have to decide that we are going to rescue ourselves. That in places of like Jackson, Mississippi, we won't allow it to become havens of oppression which endanger all of us. So what happens in Jackson, Mississippi impacts each and every one of us. And so we have to make the decision that we're going to start controlling the way electoral politics proceeds. And so we've made the decision that we're going to be the most radical city on the planet. That we're going to make certain that we change the whole scope of electoral politics. No longer will we allow an individual to step before us and tell us all of the great things that they're going to accomplish on our behalf, only to find that nothing in their past demonstrates a sincerity, a willingness, or an ability to do so. What we must do in Jackson, Mississippi, in D.C., in Maryland, in Gary, Indiana, in Chicago, Illinois, is we have to start drafting an agenda for ourselves. Creating an agenda, creating what we want to see, and then we draft the leadership which represents our agenda. And so we're excited about this energy which is surfacing. But it is time that we concretize it, that we take it from the mystical, from the mysterious, and put it into action and see what we can demonstrate when progressive people come together and have a plan and decide how we're going to change the very scope of this world. And so we have to come to the same understanding that Martin Luther King came to in his last days. Martin had a conversation with Harry Belafonte not long before he died. And what Martin told Harry, he said, listen, Harry, we're going to win this integration struggle. But I'm beginning to wonder if we're not integrating into a burning house. He said, I see a system which is abusing labor and abusing working people. And he said, I'm worried about integrating into a house that looks like that. He said, if people can't be fed, if people can't take care of their families, then it is useless to walk Mississippi roads together. And so ultimately, it becomes greater than a question of color and more a question of ideas. And what are the best ideas? And what are the worst ideas? And what the worst ideas are is that you can be oppressive to anyone. And so we now demand that our leadership looks at how we include the people's voice in the process. And that we have two choices. We have a choice of economics by the people and for the people, or economics by a few people for themselves. And so we're demanding right now that we begin to rescue ourselves. Right now, as my comrade said, we have nothing to lose but our chains. Thank you so much.
That was Jackson, Mississippi Mayor-elect Chokwe Lumumba speaking earlier this month at the People's Summit in Chicago. Well, he joins us now live from Jackson, Mississippi. Mayor-elect Lumumba, welcome to Democracy Now!
Thank you so much, Amy. I'm happy to be on your program with you today.
So 1 week from today, you're going to be sworn in as the next mayor of Jackson, Mississippi. Talk about your plans. What are going to be your first actions in office?
Well, Amy, we're putting together, we have a transition team that's in place right now and looking at the issues which Jackson is facing, making certain that we don't make plans just off conjecture, but a fact-based analysis of where we find our city and bringing together not only people who have the acumen and ability and skill to do the job, but people who have a passion which goes beyond just the way we see electoral politics, but a passion to change people's lives. And part of that process is putting together a budget. Shortly after we take office, we have to pass a budget. And so it's important that we have the right people in place. One of the symbolic measures that we're going to take immediately as we take office is a citywide cleanup. It's more than just, taking care of the aesthetic appeal of our city. It's about unifying the city. It's about bringing people from all areas of the city together and taking a collective interest in how our city looks. I harken back to the words of my mother, if you don't care for your house, no one else will. And so we're going to take those easy first steps that is symbolic of where we're going and the direction we're headed in collectively.
You referred to your mother. Can you talk about the origins of your name, Chokwe Lumumba?
Amy, I couldn't hear you. My earpiece
Can you talk about
Can you please repeat that question?
The origins of your name, Chokwe Lumumba?
So my father changed his name when he was in law school and accepted a name that he believed to be more culturally identifiable. Chokwe is the name of a tribe in the Angola region, a tribe that was resistant to the slave trade. The name Chokwe means hunter. Antar is the name of a historic poet and warrior who died while saving a woman from drowning. And Antar means poet and warrior. Lumumba, I'm given that name from our namesake, Patrice Lumumba, the former prime minister of the Congo, and Lumumba means gifted.
And can you talk about, your rise to to becoming mayor of Jackson is very interesting because the incumbent mayor, Tony Yarber, won the special election against you in 2014, the race that determined who would finish your father's term after he died in office. Your thoughts about losing to him then, but defeating him in this race, what changed?
Well, as I've shared with many people, hindsight is 20/20, and I'm actually grateful that we lost the election in 2014, not because the sincerity was not there, not because we don't believe we could have done a good job, but we've been able to, appreciate far more that's going on with the city of Jackson, and I've been able to appreciate more within myself. People have to remember in 2014, not only did I bury my father in a 2-month time span and then enter into an election, my wife was pregnant with our first child, and so there was a world of change. You had a first-time candidate who had not run for junior class president, much less mayor of a city. And so we've been able to gather more information and position ourselves better. And so everything happens in a perfect timing. And so we're happy where we find ourselves at this time to move forward the agenda that my father embarked on, an agenda of a people's platform, one that was not only symbolic of his work in his short term as mayor, but symbolic of his work, a lifetime of work that he subscribed to and also ultimately dedicated his family towards.
I want to go back to your father, Chokwe Lumumba. In June 2013, I interviewed him just after he was elected mayor.
There are some people historically who have always tried to separate the populations and to have a certain portion of the population oppress the rest of the population. We're not going to tolerate that. We're going to move ahead. We're going to let everyone participate in this movement forward. We're going to invite everyone to participate in this movement forward. And we have formed like a people's assembly. That's key to what we've done here, where we have every 3 months, the population can come out and participate in open forum to say what's on their mind.
That was Chokwe Lumumba in 2013 when he was mayor-elect, in the very same studio that you, Mayor-elect Lumumba, are sitting in right now. In that speech we just played that you gave at the People's Summit, where I first met you just a few weeks ago in Chicago, you said we're going to be the most radical city on the planet. What does that look like?
It looks like a plan where we change the way we view electoral politics. In that speech I spoke about not accepting someone's agenda for our lives, but creating one ourselves. So giving people more control of their governance is what that looks like. It's an inclusive process. Sometimes when we use the word radical, people find themselves in fear and question whether they're a part of that radical agenda. And that's exactly our plan, is to incorporate more people, giving people voice who have not had it. That is a shift from what we've seen in traditional politics. It's usually the lay of the land is given to those who are most privileged. And so we're trying to incorporate more people in the process, give voice to the voiceless. And it starts with identifying, the areas of greatest need. We need to, show our workers, our city workers, and even the unionized work that we need. We need to show people dignity and respect in their jobs, and also see the economic benefit of it. Well, Jackson is like many cities. It does not have a problem producing wealth. It has a problem maintaining wealth. And so if you put more money in the people's hands that live and work here, you stand a greater chance of receiving it back. And so we're also going to look at practical solutions to our problems. It is about forming relationships. It is about operational unity and making certain that you can work with people who may historically find themselves on the opposite end of a struggle that you may be engaged in, such as the state, such as a Trump administration. And so you want to identify your common ends and see how you exploit those common goals in order to arrive at the solutions that benefit us all. But it's also about how you make better use of the resources you have. What we look at as
Mayor-elect, I'm going to interrupt just because we only have a minute.
Yes.
And I want to ask, Jackson drew a lot of attention earlier this year when Daniela Vargas, who was a 22-year-old undocumented immigrant, was arrested by ICE after she had just held a news conference. Her pending application for renewal of DACA status, it was pending. Is Jackson going to be a sanctuary city? Jackson
is going to be a city which protects human rights for human beings. I don't care whether your ancestors arrived on the Mayflower or whether you joined us more recently. You deserve the same protections and respect in this city. And so we find ourselves in interesting times where the word sanctuary becomes a negative phrase. I'm proud of the work my father did in order to secure an anti-racial profiling ordinance in the city, and we will continue to protect everyone who lives within our city and make certain that they're not harassed.
The issue of police accountability. In the last weeks, we have seen 2 police officers acquitted or cases with mistrials around the killing of African-American motorists. Your thoughts?
I think we have a criminal justice system in our country which is entirely out of hand. It's the largest business going, and the fact that we've made the criminal justice system into more of an industry, it provides or creates a culture that allows for people to be harassed, killed, and shuffled in like cattle.
We have 10 seconds.
That encourages an environment of police brutality. And so what we want to do is be ahead of the curve in the city of Jackson. We want to see
we're going to have to leave it there. I thank you so much, and we'll cover the day you become mayor.